Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Terrence with 1010 Studios. Welcome back to another video for, in this case, Logic Pro X for the kick and the snare. Now, we've done a couple different videos and have done a kick and a snare for the Touch Mix 30 with some of the presets, things like that. But we're going to be doing the kick and the snare video here today for various reasons, just to kind of get people started on how they can make subtle changes and make a major difference, or make some major changes and make some good differences depending upon what you're looking to do to make the kick and the snare stand out. Of course, you know that's the heartbeat, the pulse, the tempo of any song pretty much. So we're going to talk about presets in Logic Pro X for the kick and the snare, and then also, of course, making it your own. Presets are typically a good start to get you to a certain point, and then after that you tailor it to your taste, to your needs, to the shape of the song, the overall feel of the song, and this is going to help you to get started. So if you're a first-time visitor of the site and of the channel, welcome, happy to have you. Please consider to subscribe and join us in our venture here to talk about pro audio and video. If you're returning, welcome back, glad to have you back. Share, spread the word basically, let everyone know that we have these kind of things going on, and drop some comments, let us know what you want us to discuss possibly, and we'll probably go down that path, check out, see what you guys got going on. So to get right to it, I already have pretty much this is a template for what we call the House of Worship mix. We start off with the kick, snare, hi-hat, tom 1, 2, and 3, overhead left, right, keys left, right, guitar, bass, and a track, and some vocals. So this particular version of Logic is, which one is this? 11.1.2 as of the recording of this video. So things might look different if you have a different version. These particular kind of techniques or kind of workflows are going to be similar in other DAWs, other applications. Could be any one that you might use across the board, free or otherwise paid for. So take it for what it's worth. It's not the end all, it's just a one way of doing things or trying to get things where you need to be. So first things first is I'm going to, hopefully this thing is going to stop blinking for me. So first things first, as you can see, I already have some settings in play, but I'm going to turn these off here for the time being for both of these. So let's turn the EQ off, and we're going to turn off, let's see, compression. And this is just going to be basically the raw signal from these two instruments, the kick and the snare. So I'm just going to kind of place the playhead somewhere in the middle here. You're going to hear probably some bleed vocals from the kick and the snare's mics because it was a live event. This was not recorded in the studio. This was recorded like in a live event, and you'll hear probably some vocals in the background. That's pretty much unavoidable based upon speaker placement, volume, and just the sensitivity of the microphones. So I'm gonna play a little bit, and then we're gonna get to the kick and the snare. So hopefully the volume's not too loud. If it is, I'll try to adjust it accordingly. So without further ado, here we go. Alright, so that's pretty much like the intro. The guy was talking in the background. As you can hear him go to where the music really kicks in. And you can definitely hear the snare, you can hear, I'm sorry, the crash, and also the vocals in the background. As you can see, we're just hitting just above zero here, so we're going to do a few things to tame it and also shape it a little bit. So first things first, let's go with the EQ on the kick. So let's see where that's at. We're going to solo that out and go from there. And you hear the difference. All right, so that's just a kick there, and I'll put that to the side for a moment. I'm going to bring up the snare. All right, so I'm going to solo out the snare and do the same thing. All right, so you got a little sample of what it sounds like with the EQ on and off, things like that. So now, as you can see, these are some presets that are in Logic in this case for the kick and snare. Let's see if I can do a number like this here. So work these kind of side by side, so to speak. All right, so let's start with the kick. So let's flatten this out here. Actually, where's that reset button at? Let's do this. Okay, I'm gonna start the thing off at 0 basically. And let's just I'm gonna go flat. All right, so for the kick here, let's start with soloing that out. Play the track a little bit. And we're just gonna choose something here. So you see there's a bunch of different, well, not a bunch, but a couple of different options for presets, and some have some minor changes, some major dips, pretty decent increases depending upon what you're looking for. So I'm going to show you something that I've seen before, and it can work out. So first things first is, I believe it was from like I've seen EQs like this for kick drums. Let's see what this sounds like. And essentially just cutting out all that high stuff, taking all that stuff out. Mid-range too. This is the punch part, and this is the bass part, of course. Here's some more punch. Sometimes you get like a narrow peak. Depending upon what you're looking for, just kind of widen it up to whatever you want compared to this. And then there's some that are like this. That I've seen as well. It sounds like this, where you can really hear the high part of the kick drum, the beater on the skin. So sometimes you gotta make changes in different areas, frequency ranges. See how it sounds on headphones, on studio monitors, things like that. So some just leave it like this. I tend to like to boost a little bit. Some people don't like to. Just depending upon the few things. One, the player of the drums. 2, the drum kit itself. 3, the microphone that's on the kick drum. And then also the nature of the song, the consistency of the drummer, things like that. The type of song it is, the type of genre it is. You would definitely want to have some. Me, I just love the bass drum, the kick, and makes you want to feel it. For this kind of song, it's just kind of, that's what it is. It's not just there to be just there in the background. It's there to be right in your face, and for you to feel it. So this will help that, especially in the lowest possible range possible. If you leave it natural, you'll still hear it and you'll see it, but you can make it stand out a little bit more if you like. You don't have to do too much. Usually 3 is enough to make a audible difference from the original. And then how much can make the difference too. So I take some of that punch out. We'll put it back. And then also here in the mid, I can take all that high out. Hold on a second, that's the wrong one. Let's take all of that out. So now you got just bass. As a matter of fact, let me try it with the other one. Hang on. high stuff out. So this way, you know, the bleed is not the biggest thing to be concerned about because you're going to have all the other music that's going to drown that out. But when you're soloing, you're going to hear all kinds of different things on a microphone from a drum kit, especially in a live environment. So let's just do this. All right, so a big difference from here. So big difference. So we'll just leave this like this right now. We're not going to bring any extra bass, just going to leave it, taking out the high stuff. And then let's check out the snare. And while I'm working with the snare, look at the kick. So you see the differences in regards to how those presets make the snare sound, and that's no kick. The kick is totally out at this point. It's just all snare, and now you hear the kick inside there, but I'm gonna bring the kick in with the snare like this and see how it sounds. It sounds pretty decent, depending upon what you're listening on. So if you're not listening on headphones, go get a pair. Preferably something over the ear to block out some of any room sound and kind of give you a good overall, you know, ear, hearing, listening kind of perspective. If you're listening on monitors, that's fine too. Just if you're listening on computer speakers, laptop speakers, you're not going to get the full range of things. So just take it for what it's worth. So, in listening to this, I'm going to do some changes here while we're here. I like the fact that this gives us some more air on the snare. Takes out all the high stuff over here, all the way up to, where is this, about 342, where we at? Which one are we on? Yep, so it's about 342 itself, and then not enhancing anything over here. I should just a little bit minus, but let's do 0. All right, so that's at flat 0 here, as you can see. See at 100, we got plus 8.5. Only other one is at 6K plus 10.5. Excuse me. All right, that sounds pretty decent to me, just from compared to the original or the non-EQ'd or colored version. I'll give you a sample of what I just did, and you saw what the changes I made, and on the kick it's pretty cut and dry, just crossed over at a certain point, enhanced a little bit. So here's with and without the EQ at these settings. So you can definitely hear a difference. I'm gonna check the decibel difference here in a minute. So let's bring it down just a tad bit. All right, so we're gonna do it without the EQ, see where it's at on decibels on the main, and then all right, so at -1. -5 and depending upon what song I guess I'm playing. So just at pretty much just at 0 with these, and let's just do this. All right, almost at 0. So not bad. And we're going to use some compression to help that out. So that's pretty much what it sounds like with and without the changes we made EQ wise. Now, is it perfect? No, by all means it's not. I'm sure we can do a whole lot more to it to make it sound great. So you get the idea of what you can do, from where you can start from, and also, you know, get an idea where you want to end up at. So it's always good to toggle it off and on to hear the differences, along with any vocals, other instruments, things like that. And you kind of build that one instrument or, you know, collection of instruments, and then add in a few elements here and there. And then eventually you'll get to your, you know, final point, your finished product. So another thing I'm going to talk about is the compressor, which is a common tool that should be used on most, if not all, instruments or inputs for a number of reasons. One, to enhance, and another to control the instrument. So for the sake of these, I'm not going to go too far into it, but I'm just going to show you a few different options here. There's different versions of these that you can choose from, and they have different sensitivity and, you know, kind of shaping in regards to compression, limiting, distortion, things like that. So just like we did in the beginning, we're going to start with the one on the kick, kind of have the EQ set up. As you can see, the EQ is on, and then we're going to throw the compressor in with some presets here. And as you can see, it's got a little bit of and I didn't even pull anything yet, but it's still registering a little bit here. And you can see the settings. Here's how much compression that you can use. Here's a little gain increase if you want to, auto gain to keep it at a certain level, or you can do something like this. And as you can see, it's getting to the top on 0. So watch that go up. This is always going to give it a boost. So sometimes -12 is good enough to enhance it without doing too much. But you do have your input gain here, and then you have your output. So your input, depending upon where you want to have it at, is going to flow from left to right pretty much. So you'll start here, but end up over here. So let's do that again. And see, we get like -4, -5, -2, depending upon. So let's just say -2 is the max, give or take. Let's just say that's too much. So we can bring it back a little bit if you want, like by 3, 3.5. Okay, and then the output, we're getting like -5, -6, -8, -6, -5. Not bad. but we can juice it up if we want to. Not like we need to, but if we wanted to. And then you have the mix here. So you can play with it, all these settings. I typically kind of come off at least to about like 80, 85. So a limiter on here, maybe -3. Let's do this. You can see it's not really going much higher than -3, -4. And I got this maxed out for, you know, at 0, so it'll bring up the level when it needs to, and you have your threshold where you can have it trigger. So let's do this. And you see the amount of compression right here. Let's try this. Let's see here. Let's do classic. Big difference compared to what I had, and they hitting at 1.2. They clipping right now, and it's even in my -12. Let's take this down a little bit. Let's not add any. Still hitting hard. So yeah, depending upon what you want, let's throw a limiter on and bring it down a little bit, to like maybe 4. So plenty of punch, plenty of compression. So it's compressing about -10, which is a little bit too high unless you want that kind of feel. But that's just one way of doing things. So let's lighten up on the ratio. And you get the idea. I mean, you can lighten up the input as well. That's a fairly decent amount of compression. I mean, it's barely hitting -5. So, depending upon, like I said, the context of the mix and what you're looking for, let's do like 1.5. Depending upon the musician or the instrument conditions, you know, song to song that's going to change. If you're doing this one song, they kind of stay consistent on one song. Other songs are more intense, a little bit lighter on other songs, depending upon that. So now we've got the kick in. Let's work on the snare. I'm just going to do some free-handed stuff, and then I'm going to get to a preset. Alright, so that sounds like a decent start for right now. Alright, so let's see what they have to say. Much different than I selected. I don't think the settings changed at all. Big difference. They're peaking heavily. Let's change this up. We want that snare to stand out. You can see I'm just going between, and it's different features or different settings that makes it sound totally different. So let's remove this. It's crazy. That's probably better. Still getting up there, but it's kind of maxing out and just hitting to 0. And that's why I like to throw a limiter on to make sure it doesn't go too crazy. Yeah, it's really catching that real good too. All right, so we got something for both of them. Now let's just hear them both side by side, or together rather. So, so you hear the difference in both, and it makes sense to, you know, still play around with it to get the sound you're looking for. I mean, from what I'm hearing, it sounds, you know, okay, of course. It's not like I don't have a sub or any kind of room to play it in right at this point. I'm using headphones, so if I play this in the car, it's going to sound totally different, and playing it, you know, from a laptop or other speakers, earbuds, from your phone, it's going to sound different. So getting the most out of it, depending upon what you're using a recording for and such, you definitely want to have it worked on more and more as time goes on. But you get the idea of where things can be, where it came from, first of all, where it started out as, and also where you would like to take it. So I'm gonna pick up, I'm gonna just go to another little feature I have on here. Let's see, the adaptive limiter. So this right here, for both, outside of what we did here. And let's see what that can do for us. So I had that same adaptive limiter on the main. I had to take it off, so because it was clipping a little bit, but a little minor adjustments can help it. But I took that off for the time being. So that was a kick. Let's see about the snare. See, here's some differences there. It gives it a little bit more oomph and more density inside there. Now, one thing I didn't talk about is noise gate. So I'm gonna throw a gate in here. Let's see. There we go. Okay, gate. All All right, so for the noise gate, it helps to kind of minimize some of that extra unwanted sounds that are around. So, here. Okay, so kick and snare. So this takes a little bit of fine tuning. So we'll see what we can do with this here. Let's start with the kick. All right, so let's start to go with the snare now. So as you can hear, it cuts out a lot of that extra background stuff, so it leaves room for it to just kind of keep coming through on the actual instrument or the vocal. So it sounds weird now because I don't have the other instruments in here and the vocals to kind of fill in those dips when it cuts out, comes back in, cuts out, comes back in. But that's what the gate's for, is to close and open, how fast or how slow, things like that. So having said that, you know, not going to hone in on this too much, but this is one way to take out some of that bleed when it comes to drums, because it's like typically you want to hear the kick and want to hear the snap the snare, and not really the resonance or the background noise, background sounds that come through when you're not hitting the snare or whatever drum for that matter. So I'm going to not push in on this too much, but that's something that you can use to minimize some of your noise bleed. So other than that, I mean, this is pretty much where we need to be for the sake of the drums, the kick and the snare at least. Now, of course, if you have your own, say, techniques, your chain of sorts in regards to effects, how you like to do it first, you might want to compress it first and then EQ, or you do the EQ, then you do the compression. Whichever way you do it, definitely let us know what your preference is or what other plugins you might use. I want to stick to the native plugins, not anything purchased, because some of the purchased plugins are out of reach for some folks. I want to get started with the actual built-in plugins, and then as time goes on, you might enhance or get more. So definitely let us know where you stand on that as well. So like I said, if you haven't subscribed to the channel here, please do so. Feel free to comment below, let us know what you think, and also what you might want us to discuss in a future video. We'll probably work on toms and the other parts of the drums, as well as doing the other instruments as time goes on. So until next time, stay tuned and stay blessed.